Hello and welcome to episode number 2 of the Barbarian Philosopher podcast. As always, this is your host, Jerome Acevedo. I'm here with my buddy, Leron. Leron, say what's up.
What's up, everyone?
Let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to start out talking about UFC 203.
Yeah.
Just in general, looking just from what you've seen in general, anything in particular stand out to you about that fight or that event?
203 was... So I'm going to be completely forthright. I watched 203 in bits and bobs.
Okay.
Just basically off the internet.
Right. Same here.
Yeah. I didn't bother to watch it live. I was excited about the Overeem Miocic fight.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Overeem in general, he's so inconsistent. You know? And he didn't, from what I saw, he did not show up in the same way as he's capable of showing up at all. You saw a shell of Alistair.
Why, for this fight in particular, why do you think that is?
You know what's funny? I feel like he's been a shell of himself, and he just managed to get a title shot somehow. Against, I don't know if it was the competition wasn't high or whatever, but I saw him in his last fight. Who was he fighting in his last fight? He got him with a head kick or something.
I honestly don't remember.
I can't remember who he fought in his last one. But like, he really looked very tentative. He didn't look like his physically and mentally, he didn't look like he had the sharpness of what he used to have.
Do you think, and this is of course purely speculation, but this is a very common speculation right now, considering all the USADA testing and all of that. Do you think that, the various drug testing and banned substances, are, of course, cracked down a lot more on that.
They stepped that up in the UFC.
Oh yeah, a lot more.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, there's a lot of fighters who since then their fighting seems to have changed a bit. Physically, he looks a little bit different. He doesn't quite look like, as Joe Rogan put it, the comic book character that he used to look like.
Not at all.
But so I always figure that's a possibility. I imagine you get used to fighting with a certain physicality, and when that physicality changes, your fighting style wasn't developed for that.
Right. I think I know what you're getting at. Like, he was such an athlete. He was so much faster and stronger and more powerful and able to take a punch than everyone else that he may have neglected other parts of his game. And when that raw athleticism that people find hard to maintain wasn't there, you saw all these holes that were there, but people just couldn't. They couldn't take points.
As opposed to somebody else who maybe was not as athletic, they would have developed a style that was better fit for dealing with their lack of athleticism. So I feel like that's a possibility. But then I also wonder with Miocic in particular, his boxing is really good. And I can't say that in the few fights I've seen of Overeem in the UFC that boxing was really his thing. You know, his thing has been really the knees, the kicks, and then coming with just a fucking bomb of whatever he does land. But as far as just like pretty boxing or like a really well-developed, intricate boxing, that's never really been something that stood out to me on Overeem. So I'm wondering if maybe he was a little intimidated by that, trying to keep distance, because it seemed like he was just really looking for that big shot. He would kind of stay away. When Miocic would get in and start trying to flurry, run, make distance.
Yeah, there was a lot of running going on.
Yeah, a lot of running.
A lot of running.
Yeah. And then when he would throw, it would just be, these big power shots.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if maybe he wasn't trying to, outlast Miocic a little bit until he can get in closer and start landing some knees.
I don't know what he was thinking. It was a very strange game plan. I really didn't know how he was. And he somehow managed to get a knockdown.
Yeah, he did. He did manage to land one. And I'm wondering if that just wasn't his game plan, was just stay out of boxing range, try to land something huge, and then maybe when Miocic tires out a little bit, go for the clinch or something.
Yeah, I honestly don't think he had one.
Also very possible. very possible.
I don't think he ever thought he was going to win this fight.
Really?
Yeah. And that's, again, listen, I have to preface this by saying I did not see the lead up. I don't remember who he knocked out in his last fight. It was kind of a gatekeeper dude, like someone who was like grizzled old vet, but he knocked someone out. I don't remember his immediate past, but just looking at that fight, I saw a man who didn't ever really think they were going to win that fight. Who was never really in, and was really surprised when he knocked the other dude down and tried to capitalize on it, but because he wasn't looking for that, he wasn't looking for a finish. I think he was looking to survive.
Interesting.
Your killer instinct comes on, in my experience as a fighter, your killer instinct comes on when you can see a finish. When you're looking for a finish, you find it. And if it falls into your lap but you weren't looking for it, it will go right through. It will go right through you, And I think that's what I saw there with it.
Okay, very possible.
That's just how it looked to me,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Gall versus Punk.
Oh my god.
So I'll say this: I'm not surprised. I can't say I'm in the least bit surprised, but I give it to Punk for having the balls to do it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I give him props for having the nutsack to do that.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And I give him props for handling the loss in a very mature way.
I didn't see what he said after.
After the fight, basically, is like, what can I say? This was a dream, and I went out there and I did it. And it's not always about. Obviously, I wanted the win. I was disappointed I didn't get the win, but the fucking journey was amazing. And like, who gets the chance to do this? Like, this is super cool that I even got an opportunity. So that was kind of his vibe.
Yeah.
And he was asked, like, would you have, you ran in pretty aggressive, was that your plan? And more or less, he was like, yeah, I think my timing was off. I threw the too late, and he had already shot in. So if I can go back and do it again, I would have, maybe try to time it better. But their game plan apparently was they didn't want to let Gall get his momentum going. They wanted to try to catch him off guard and then just, boop, 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 boop. And respect, I can't be mad at it. Again, you're talking to us about somebody who has no fighting, no amateur, no nothing, and he's coming in. So I would definitely, I can see where you would not want to let the guy get into their rhythm.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really much to have happen to really like go into detail about it.
Yeah.
He ran in, he got taken down. He managed to defend the choke for a little bit, which, props on that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, within the first round, you're out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't not respect CM Punk. Especially hearing you describe how he was after and seeing what a journey it was. Looking at him, the fact that he was dominated so thoroughly by this, young up and coming dude, is a testament to how much respect you have to have for this guy. Because he went up against a human going up against a shark in
Absolutely.
He was on another level. There's no way he ever could have won that fight.
Yeah, I mean, really, you, me, or anybody from the gym has more fight experience.
Oh yeah, far more
than he came in.
Unless you count WWE or WWF, and some people would say, yeah, it counts for a lot. But then when you're against a real martial artist, a real mixed martial artist, you're gonna see very, very quickly that there's a sharp learning curve from WWE to him.
Yeah, I mean, again, and of course that's choreographed, but I there's a certain aspect to just any physical sport that's gonna translate into fighting.
Right.
Rugby and football. American football will translate into fighting just because it's a hard contact sport and there's a certain amount of aggression and physicality and a certain mental state that goes with it. So I can see some of that. And there are some, consistently learning to pick somebody up and slam them, and that could translate to some degree, but in no way would I relate that to, actual martial arts or mixed martial arts. When you do have guys like at least Brock Lesnar who came from an actual pedigree, like he was a legit wrestler,
a collegiate wrestler,
as opposed to, I don't know, whoever else from the WWE who just came from WWE. So It was an entertaining fight for the spectacle of it. It was an entertaining fight, just because of its oddity and just getting to see how it was going to play out. But all in all, I can't say I'm at all surprised.
No.
This was the big one for me. I really found this fight very exciting. Verdum versus Brown.
I'm going to be frank with you again. I did not see Verdum versus Brown. I just saw the end. And,
Okay.
Joe Rogan was talking about how it was. It sounded like Joe Rogan was talking about how it wasn't a very impressive fight.
So,
but go on. I'm very intrigued as to how you found it exciting. 'Cause I think a lot of people didn't.
well, okay. I guess I should preface it. In relation to the other fights from that card that I saw, that one was the most exciting one.
Why?
And the highlights of it, the bulk of it was very tentative. It wasn't a consistently active fight, but there was some pretty big highlights. So, bell rings, round one, ding! First move out the gate, Verdum runs up with a flying side kick to Travis Brown's face. Right?
Wow.
Out of just, boom, run up. Now Travis Brown's like 6'7".
I feel like
and side kicks his motherfucker in the face. They go at it a bit. He does a somersault axe kick, right? At some point, they're kind of going at it again. It's a little bit tentative. There's a few exchanges being thrown, and I forget which round. I think it might have been round 2 or something. Verdum throws a punch. And Brown blocks it. His hand is open. He blocks it, and you see him wince and pull his hand away and kind of like time out, and move to the corner.
Oh yeah.
And Verdum, like the ref hasn't stopped anything, so Verdum comes up and hits him with boom, 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 and the ref gets in the middle and is like, "What's going on?" And Travis Brown is holding his finger, and he looks like he kind of pulls it a little bit, and he's like, "No, I'm good. Now there's some controversy here because you can't really call a timeout in the fight. Like, I think for eye pokes they allow it, for nut shots they allow it, but just general injuries, you're not allowed to really stop the fight. But for whatever reason, the ref was like, okay, I guess we're good. The doctors looked at his hand, was like, all right, I guess we're good. My thought was that he had just dislocated his finger. Finding out after the fact, he actually had broke his finger and his bone had poked through. I don't know if the doctor saw the bone poke through or if he pulled it back in before the doctor got there, but that's what that was about. And so for most of the fight, he didn't use his. I don't think he's a southpaw, is he? I think he's orthodox. Whatever his rear hand is, he didn't really use that at all. But they go at it, and again, Verdum goes with this crazy somersault axe kick attempt. None of them landed. I think the second one he did almost landed. And at the end of the fight, Verdum wins it. And Brown's coach, who's also Ronda Rousey's coach, Edmund, whatever his last name is, starts talking shit and running up on Verdum. And Verdum hits him with a teep kick.
What the fuck? Wait. Go back. Say what you just said again.
So the fight is done. They announce Verdum is the winner, and as per usual, you walk around and you shake hands or whatever, and people talk, and Edmund walks up angry, talking shit, and he gets too close, and Verdum, pow, just not a super hard one, but just a get back, boom, and hits him with a teep kick, and then everybody jumps in the middle, and Verdum squares up, and Travis kind of fluffs, puffs his chest out a little bit. And then, I could be wrong, but it looked like Travis hey, oh wait, shit, I just got my ass beat by you. No, maybe not, And then, that was pretty exciting. That was pretty. Shit.
I didn't know. Why didn't no one tell me that happened?
That was pretty insane.
Oh,
so I enjoyed that.
I feel like the theatrics in the UFC, and I'm going to class this as theatrics, not to say that it was fake, just to say that it has nothing to do with actual fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Has gone up exponentially in the past year or so.
Yeah, I think you can go back to Chael Sonnen.
Yeah, he was one of the
and things. Kind of. Let's be honest. Chael Sonnen made his career a lot more on selling tickets by his personality than he did on his win streak.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He lost quite a few fights.
He did,
but he was the top paid for a minute. because he put asses in seats. Everyone, either people loved the fact that he talked shit, or they hated it and wanted to see him get his ass whooped. And then from there, the evolution, the Pikachu to Raichu of Chael Sonnen was Conor McGregor. And now his whole flamboyancy and personality and all of that. I think a lot of people are kind of seeing like it's not all just about winning. There is something to being a character and just kind of putting on a show. And not to say that necessarily relates to the Verdum kicking Edmund issue, but I do feel like since that trend is kind of from Chael to now McGregor, people are trying to copy that. People are trying to emulate that because it's making money. And if you consider the fact that they now have the Reebok deal and that's cut into a lot of people's money, into a lot of people's pockets, people are trying to get that extra money however they can. Yeah. So I feel like that may play into it a little bit.
I definitely think they're related. I would explain it more, now that I'm listening to you, explain it more like people have caught on to the fact more on a kind of less than conscious level. I don't think they know that they're doing it, that they're increasing the theatrics, but they just see it, and I think everyone's starting to realize that is now part of the game. Like, it's not, I don't think it's an act for anyone. I don't think anyone's consciously trying to do it, but it's a movement inside of the UFC, and I think that Conor was a big catalyst for that, and it is part of the reason why everyone's going to start making more money now.
Now, to say that with Conor, I don't think what Conor is doing is an act. No, I do feel that is legitimately.
Yeah. And I also don't think he's doing it even for the money. I think he's doing it because that's the beginning of the warfare.
Yeah, I think that's legitimately who Conor McGregor is, and that just happened to make a decent amount of money, and people are now like, oh, maybe I don't need to have this filter on. I don't need to act
it's more of a remover of the filter. You get tense, you get all these testosterone, you get the blood rushing, and then people are watching, the cameras there, and it brings something out of you that is real. Like that shit is real, but it's also not you. Like if they were, if they're sitting around the same two dudes basically now who are sitting around making a podcast drinking tea,
right,
would be the same two dudes who could absolutely do all that shit. It's just it's the field. It changes you.
Yeah, it brings out a different part of you. You're not the same person when you're talking to your mom as you are at work, as you are when you're talking to the homies, as you are when you're macking on some chick, as you are when you're in a street fight. Like those are all different people. Right. Inside the same person. So I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
I want to transition real quick to something. I shot you an article. I found this really interesting. Let me pull this up real quick. So apparently in, I believe it's Tanzania, they have a problem with farmers and elephants are coming in and like just raiding and completely demolishing their crops. And so of course the farmers need food, so they are shooting and severely injuring and attacking the elephants. No worries.
Carry on.
So there have been all these, attempts to find solutions on how to fix things and how to get that out of the way. I'm sitting here waiting for this to load up. All right, here we go. So, condoms filled with chili powder and firecrackers teach elephants to stay away. This is from livescience.com, by the way, if anyone wants to check it out. So I'm just going to read over this real quick. Conservationists are filling condoms with chili powder and firecrackers to keep elephants away. This scare tactic, part of a multi-step alarm system, has been developed to protect farmland and villages from elephants without harming the animals. Honey Guide Foundation, with support from the Nature Conservancy, has been training villagers to use the alarm system, and though unconventional, the chili condoms have already shown promise. In northern Tanzania, the area around Tarangire National Park, where elephants live, has seen substantial civilization growth since the park was established in 1970. According to Matthew Brown, Africa Region Conservation Director for the Nature Conservancy, the population density has more than doubled, and much of the grasslands surrounding the park are being converted to farmlands. The issue is the elephants leave some of these parks, like Tarangire National Park, and go into these community areas that are farmed, Brown told Live Science. It's not an ivory issue. It's a human-wild conflict around a response because they're raiding the crops. Success of Chile. Before the program started in October 2013, villagers would use spears to move the elephants out of the crop fields, injuring and potentially killing the animals. Even so, the elephants were damaging up to 70% of crops in the area. This led Damien Bale, executive director of Honey Guide, to research alternative options for keeping the elephants away. Bale had heard that some communities found success with firecrackers. The loud noise scaring the elephants and prompting the animals to move. Communities had also used bright lights from headlights on a vehicle or flashlights to push the elephants away. In addition, for years, farmers have used chilies, planting chili peppers or pepper plants as a fence or dispersing powder to ward off the elephants, as very few animals like chili. The peppers or powder have also been used to keep other animals like monkeys from crops. I thought, let's mix these together. Let's have a firecracker that's wrapped up in chili so that when we chuck it at them, there's a bang and there's smoke, Bell told Live Science. So we started working on the chili bomb, chili cloud kind of a thing. And, well, that started working. So there's more to it, but I'm going to stop there. Basically, it's like a four-pronged approach. It starts with, like, the animals are there, and first you flash, you use your flashlight, and then I think they had another thing, which is like a siren or a horn to try to scare them away. And there's a third step, and then the last step being you take, and they're using condoms, I guess, because they're readily available and they're very cheap. So you take your firecracker.
They're not cheap. Fucking
well,
$2.50 each. Jesus.
Well, out here maybe, yeah. But I think out there, apparently,
aren't they way too expensive out here? Don't you think? Every time you bang, you want to pay $2.50. Fuck.
I mean, you got
to spend fucking another $100 just to fuck them in the first place.
It depends how you do it,
right?
But I figure, first of all, buy in bulk. Definitely don't get to like 3 a pack because that's going to be too expensive. Buy in bulk, and there are a lot of
out there. It's probably very
and considering that, I think they have they have a lot of programs because AIDS is a big epidemic in Africa where those are being given away for free. Mm. So I imagine it can't be that expensive,
right? Either way, they're using it as a balloon.
Yes. So fill the condom up with chili powder, stuff the firecracker in there. However they light it, and you start throwing it at the elephants, and poof, no more elephants. And I guess they're hoping that.
Wait, you've kind of missed a step there, though, because they throw at the elephants and then poof, no more elephants. What is that? You're making it into a magic trick. There's got to be a bit in the middle.
Yeah, the elephants don't disappear.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, true. I guess the noise and the bang and the smell of the chili powder is enough of a deterrent that the elephants are like, fuck this is too much. I'm not feeling it, and they leave. Which is a lot better than having to, for both parties, run up and try to stab this giant thing with your spear.
Yeah.
And I like that there's now these new approaches. There was another thing I heard about where I don't know that it was in Tanzania, but somewhere else there's a cheetah problem coming in and stealing people's livestock.
Yeah, right.
I want to say sheep or goats or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's some breed of dog that they've started importing into this area.
Yeah.
That they've been, pushing to the farmers, and the farmers have been able to use those to keep the cheetahs away. And considering how much wildlife is being depleted and just kind of disappearing now and going extinct, and how much land and resource that we're taking up, anything that can be done to kind of reserve or preserve some of those species and not kill off unnecessarily is awesome. I think we just lost the last black rhino or white rhino recently. So,
yeah, I heard about that. Or some variation of the black rhino.
Yeah, it's now completely gone.
Yeah.
So that sucks. So anytime there's
How do they? What was your answer to the earlier question? How do they get rid of the actual elephants with the firecracker?
Oh,
why do they stay away?
They just don't like it.
They just hate it.
They don't like the noise. They don't like the bang, and the smell of the pepper is. I don't know. Have you ever cooked something and then like on a frying pan and had chili powder get onto the pan? Yeah. It's like low level mace. You know, the smoke from that is very bothersome.
But then why is it? So then why do they not come? I mean, it sounds like a stupid question, but just some people probably won't understand. Why do they not come back?
Let's see. I'll read it here. It says, four-pronged approach. In order to attack four of the animal's senses, while also escalating each tactic in order to create a complete alarm system, Honey Guy trained villagers to use a multi-pronged approach. First, the bright flashlight, which Bell says has a 60% success rate in turning the elephants around. A loud horn is used next to encourage the remaining 40% of elephants to move. If that still doesn't work, then the chili powder and firecracker condom bombs are thrown. Finally, in a few cases in which the elephant still has not budged, a Roman candle firework is thrown.
Oh, nice.
There's the missing link, I guess.
Yeah.
Though the firework is very effective, it's expensive, and intensity makes it the last effort to move the animals.
Yeah.
The Roman candle is something that is quite intense. It has lots of bangs, lots of flashes, lots of lights. That Roman candle is 99.9% effective, and we've only used it 9 times by June, Bale said, referring to the tactics used in his crop season from November to July.
Yeah.
So the chili bombs we've used a lot, the flashlights and horns uncountable times. So a lot of animals, I think, just in general, try to stay away from people.
Yeah.
And kind of like are when they see signs that people are around, like, let's get out of here.
Which is interesting, I think. I think they have learned somehow, even lions, right?
Yeah,
generally stay away from people. They've learned, which we don't give them enough credit for, that humans are at the top of the food chain.
Yeah. As long as
you cannot fuck with a human. You really can't. They might be small and weak, and they can't smell and they can't see, but humans will fuck you up. And if you hurt one of them, you're done. They'll track you down. You know, as an animal, as a lion or an elephant or whatever. In a lot of places, at least.
For sure, definitely. I think, in whether they've learned it individually, there is something to like an ingrained instinct.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting.
Over a period of time, I would imagine certain animals have developed kind of an instinct of like, just people and fuck that. Like, we're like that with spiders, for example.
They're scared of like gorillas or something that might look like a human to them.
That's interesting. I don't know. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Anyway, I don't want to go too far.
No, it's all good. It's all good. With that though, one of the things that I find interesting about this is, so I'm really big right now on comparing how we live now to how we used to live as hunter-gatherers, which is what we spent the majority of our time living as. And a lot of these issues that we see stem around agriculture, stem around moving from hunter-gatherer to agricultural society. And so this, for example, the use of land as a very specific locations of land as a resource that have to be guarded and protected is a direct byproduct of agriculture, right? So let's say we're hunter-gatherers. We don't need this exact one plot of land every day, right? I can come here this time, hunt a few things over here, then I go to that part over there, then we can, move down here, then we come back over to the first place. It's a lot more nomadic. And so the need to defend a specific area from other animals it seems a lot less urgent, And I don't know that there's any real point to that other than that it's interesting, because I don't think I see anybody all right, well, we have all this farmland and we have all this technology, let's go back to being hunter-gatherers. But it's definitely, it's just interesting. I just find it interesting. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. Last subject. This was another interesting one.
Are we moving on from the elephants?
If you have anything else that you want to input on that, by all means.
No, we can move on.
All right, cool. I'm going to pull up this other link here, which was... Here we go. So, apparently recently, there was this orangutan in captivity, and the title of the article is a bit misleading, but I'm going to read it and then we'll go from there. So, this is from pbs.org. Human-like speech seen in orangutans for the first time. In science, we study primates to learn about ourselves. Orangutans share 97% of their genetic code with humans. My thing just moved. All right, with humans, and have common traits like increased brain size, sociability, and handy opposable thumbs. And now there's one more trait that we may share with our great ape cousins: speech. Researchers at the University of Durham in Britain have successfully used a learning game to get an orangutan in Indianapolis Zoo to mimic human sounds in a conversational context, something that has never been done before with primates. This discovery could shed light on how humans first developed the abilities that would lead to speech. Here's lead researcher Adriano Lemeria in New Scientist explaining what science stands to gain from this discovery. This opens up the potential for us to learn more about the vocal capacities of early hominids that lived before the split between the orangutan and the human lineage, to see how the vocal system evolved towards full-blown speech in humans. Previously, researchers believed that the orangutans did not have control over their voices, instead only making involuntary sounds of arousal. But this research clearly shows that they have the potential to control their own voices. To discover this, scientists played a game with 8-year-old Rocky, where he gets rewarded for copying sounds made by the scientists that included various range of different tones and pitches. The sounds Rocky created in these games were compared with the sounds from over 120 orangutans in captive and wild populations, and found to be markedly different when it comes to Rocky's ability to control his voice in the same way that humans do during a conversation. Although it doesn't look like we'll soon be having intelligent discussions with our orangutan brothers, this level of voice control could clarify the picture of how humans adapted to exhibit the most dynamic language skills in the natural world. There's then a little video of Rocky imitating the sounds. I don't know that our recorder will be able to pick it up, but I feel like they kind of threw a little extra on it by calling it orangutan like speech. It's really just mocking or imitating certain types of sounds that we make. But so I guess the theory is other apes, they have not found to be able to do this, to control, like I want a ha sound or a he sound or a ho, like that level of control. I guess the other great apes. No worries.
Go ahead.
They don't seem to have that level of control. And they've now been able to train one to do so.
Was that something that we really didn't?
Yeah, we didn't know that before. We thought all they could do was like just, just grunts and
they have some control over their voice.
Yeah, but now that they can choose to make specific types of sounds. There's something called the aquatic ape theory, right? Which basically says, at least in part, we as human beings may have developed some of the things that make us human by being in and around water a lot, right? So being scavengers and going into the water looking for mollusks and things like that. So I guess the hair on our back, for example, goes downward in the same direction water would travel if you were swimming. We have a much higher fat content than other primates.
Helps you float.
Yeah, exactly. And keeps insulation and things like that. And it's not a widely accepted theory, but it's a theory that's out there. And one of the things that they presented is that perhaps our holding our breath to swim and do things like that, because apparently other like chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans, they can't swim. We're like the only.
About to ask, can they swim?
No. Okay. We're the only ones that can do that. And so they were saying perhaps by learning to hold our breath so we can go swimming, this same set of muscles contracting and not contracting was then eventually able to evolve into us contracting slightly more or less to create different types of sounds, and that being in the water may have evolved our speech. And so I think this would probably knock that down a little bit.
From that, yeah.
You know, definitely very interesting, at least to me. There's also this other case of animals imitating us. There's a beluga whale, which is actually a type of dolphin. I don't know if you've ever seen the picture. There's like these white whales with this like giant lump on their head. Yeah. So really, really smart. And apparently a while ago there was this one that was captured at like 2 years old. His name was Noci, spelled N-O-C. And the Navy for a while was having like dolphins and whales trained and sent out on missions to find like underwater mines and submarines and things like that. So Noci is captured at like 2 years old, and he's brought into the Navy. He's reared up in captivity. I think they sent him out on like 2 missions. Eventually he gets meningitis and they retire him and they keep him in captivity. I'm assuming because, you know, he's been in captivity his whole life, can't make it out in the wild. And out of nowhere he starts like mimicking human speech. So not so much words, but just making very similar sounding noises that they don't make in the wild. And there's like YouTube clips on it. If you Google Noci speaking beluga whale, I'm sure you'll find a bunch of clips. But really, really interesting and kind of creepy or sad in the sense that you have this really, really smart animal that's a social animal and is supposed to interact, that's kept in captivity and can't speak or interact with anything, to the point where it develops an attempt to speak the language of another species. Mm-hmm. That's pretty wild. Mm-hmm. That's kind of insane. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about these type of stories or articles that really kind of captures my interest is, what does this say for us? We tend to see ourselves as being very different from other species and very different from other animals and kind of special. And as time goes on, it seems like we're finding more and more of what we thought only we did. Other animals have a version of it as well. And I think it does give pause. Like, what would that say if, for example, we were able to teach some other animal to communicate with us in a real communicable way? Like, what does that say for other animals' level of consciousness?
Well, I think that when you're talking about consciousness and you're talking about intelligence, it's something that we don't look at intelligence. We don't look at intelligence in that it may have the capacity in itself to evolve without some physical change creating it. So we think intelligence comes from the brain and consciousness comes from the brain. But, for example, a lot of Eastern traditions and just other people in general, if you ask them, they would say that consciousness is outside or bigger than the physical body. So, yeah, maybe dolphins weren't as intelligent 200 years ago, and maybe now they are. Maybe they're evolving with us. Maybe their intelligence is evolving at the same rate of us, and their abilities in and of itself are growing. It might not even be that we're discovering something new that they already had that we didn't see. Or maybe it is, but maybe they are kind of growing in consciousness themselves. You know, maybe they're evolving too. You know, and a lot of people think that the next step in evolution, even for us, is not one that's necessarily physical, that you might see necessarily a physical manifestation, but animals who can sense their own consciousness,
self-awareness.
You know, a lot of people see that as how we are different from other animals, that self-awareness.
Right.
And as humans become more self-aware, that's a step. You could argue that's a step in evolution itself. It just looks a little different from previous ones.
That's very interesting.
I don't know if I answered your question specifically.
No, I think that's I don't know that I was looking for like a specific answer. Yeah. It's just a topic that I like to wonder about. So anything down that line is I think a valid answer or a valid perspective.
I mean, animals have, like, just anyone who has a dog knows that their dog might not know how, like, know not to eat chocolate or like know not to like necessarily cross the street when there are cars coming, but they know stuff that we would never even dream of knowing.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, I think maybe separating consciousness and intelligence, each species is evolved to have the intelligence to deal with what that species needs. You know, what the environmental pressures are for that particular species. So there was this test they did where they took pigeons and they would show them this kind of pattern on a piece of paper, and there would be multiple versions of this pattern, and you had to find out which one didn't match up right, like which one was the oddball out. And they would have people try to do it, and they'd have pigeons try to do it, and for whatever reason the pigeons were the only were able to do it and people weren't. And they were saying basically their brain, the patterns that were being duplicated on paper had something to do with like cliffs or edges that obviously as a bird you need to be able to see, you know, where the vantage points are. You need to be able to pose somewhere, and they have a brain that is more for that. We don't need that skill, and so our brain isn't designed to pick those out. So like our brains, for example, when we look at clouds and we see like faces, we're very good at seeing faces and things, right? That's because we're social animals. Yeah. Right? And so we need, it is to our benefit to be able to make out the face of another person. Is he smiling? Is he frowning? And kind of vibe what are their intentions? And so that's how our brains have evolved. And other animals, their brains evolve for what they need. But to the point of consciousness, to your point, rather, of consciousness not being something that comes from the body, but is rather tuned into by the body, maybe. It is, I think, at least worth considering that it's a one consciousness that is tuned in through different mediums. So almost like you have a radio, and if you turn the radio to this particular channel, then that radio wave will manifest in this particular way. If you turn it to this other channel, it'll manifest in another way. So it's very plausible, or at least worth considering, I think. Yeah, man. We can go ahead and wrap this up in a minute. I just want to touch on this other. I think this is kind of deals with both the orangutan thing and the elephant thing. Of course, orangutans are also now on the extinct list.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, or not extinct. I'm sorry, but endangered. I meant to say. Excuse me. They're on the endangered list, and it's unfortunate. It seems like a lot of it's the larger ones that go first, and I think a lot of that we're overpopulating, right? We're kind of human beings. We're kind of like a disease that is too good. Right? So what I mean is, if you take cancer, for example, cancer can only live within the person as long as the person is alive. Once the person dies, the cancer dies with it. So cancer is so good, it inevitably leads to its own death. It's so good at deteriorating the body that it eventually kills itself. Whereas there are other illnesses that stick with you for a lifetime and don't kill you, but thus they propagate for longer. And so it seems like we are so good at hacking the system and taking advantage of the system that we're quickly getting rid of the system that we need to live on. And I feel like we need to kind of consider a solution to that. And I feel like either A, we have to reduce our technological abilities because of the amount of resources that requires to fuel this many people, or B, we have to cut down the number of people. I don't think we can have both. You know,
how likely do you think either one of those things are?
I don't know. I feel like I don't see people giving up technology. We all know, or most of us are aware that, you know, for example, the materials that we use for our phone comes from like child labor in Africa, pulling resources out of mines. And we all say, oh, that's so fucking horrible. Oh, those fucking assholes making those kids do that. I'm on my way to go get an iPhone now. You know, so I don't think I see anybody giving up resources. I would assume probably finding a way to minimize population numbers. I don't know how we would go.
Do you think anyone's going to do that?
Well, I think so. I think it's doable. You look at, for example, China. They have their like one child per family rule.
Have they stopped growing?
Good point.
'Cause I remember when people used to say there was 1 billion. Now people say there's 1.5 billion Chinese people
That's a good
in
point.
China, as well as the people who have left China too.
Yes, that's true. I guess that kind of shits on my theory.
I don't know. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But you just also, whenever you're coming up with, a solution to a big social problem, a human problem, you can't factor out human nature. And human nature at its core is to have babies.
Yeah.
Human nature for 99.9%. There are people who don't. I know plenty of people who say, "Oh, I don't care. I don't want to have kids." I know people, but at least the prevailing theory of like human existence is that people want to make babies. So trying to cut population, voluntarily is very unlikely. It's like trying to stop eating voluntarily. No one can do it because it goes against human nature.
True.
So then you have the other ways of population control, which are things like war and other variations of, and then there's nature,
Right.
earthquakes and famines and so on and so forth, which seem to be happening. I don't know if it's the media, probably is just the media, but it seems to me like that's happening on an increasing scale. So it seems like there are certain measures that Earth itself might be taking from outside, but I don't know that we necessarily need to lower the amount of people for us to live in harmony with all. Because honestly, I don't think that we're going to be able to use up the world's resources. I think Earth would be fine. If anything, what we're doing as humans is we're nailing our own coffin shut. We're not,
True.
If anything.
That true. Yes. If we continue down the path and let's say we burn down all the trees, no more trees, no more animals, and boom, we go out the way. Life has started up here without us before.
Right.
It'll start up again.
Yeah.
So you're right. It should be Earth will be done for us.
Yeah.
Or rather, we'll be done with the Earth will be done with us.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with that. I would think there would have to if let's just just to play with the idea. If someone were to try to present a solution that didn't involve killing people in mass or starving people out to lower the numbers, the best that I can think of would probably be some type of birth control plan. Meaning, maybe if I don't know whether it be through a financial incentive or how one would do it, but maybe once every other year, once every 3 years, give a certain period of time where basically you're not allowed to have children. You can only have children on these certain intervals. That would probably cut down on the amount of people produced every year, because even if everybody tried on that special year, only a certain percentage will actually make it.
Yeah.
But
honestly,
I'm not saying
I definitely don't think we're going to solve the world.
Yeah, you and me are probably not going to come up
save the
with
world
a
on this
solution.
podcast. But I just, in general, I don't think that trying to put limitations on humans is gonna work. Humans are too, we can't do it to us. We can't stop. The
What we are.
Yeah, what we are exactly. We can't fight our own human nature. But I want to talk about technology, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's
means.
interesting subject. You brought it up. But technology is interesting because I don't know if technology has really done. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you were just saying, but I don't know if it's necessarily done what we wanted it to do.
Okay.
Because to me, technological innovation stems from, and I was having this conversation today, but it stems mostly from, laziness. We don't want to do that thing, so I'm going to make it easier. You didn't want to go up to the TV to change the channel, so we invented a remote.
Right.
We just made everything. We didn't want to go all the way to the river to wash and bathe, so we made kitchens and toilets and showers. And in that regard, it's awesome. It's really, really good. But what we've done with it is, and again, this might go back to the human nature thing, is instead of assuaging our making a difficult thing easy. We've made an easy thing difficult and just used it to increase productivity. Like, how have we got iPhones where you can go on the internet and talk to, or you can talk to your grandma in Australia, like in 2 seconds, and yet we're still working, people are still working 10, 11, 12 hours a day. 5, 6 days a week sometimes.
Yeah.
How is, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we invented the tractor to like cut down our hours of tilling in the field, what did it get replaced by?
You know what? That's interesting, because now here's a conversation.
And there's a lot of arguments against this. Like, I'm not saying this is right, but I think it's an interesting thing to look at.
Well, I absolutely think it's an interesting subject, because I was having a conversation about something along this lines as well, which is we've seen just within America go through different phases of productivity. So there was a point in time where we were an agricultural country. Most of our productivity, our work hours, were done tilling the fields, right? Then we move into, at some point, factories, right? We're producing cars and shit like that, and we get on the assembly line, and I fucking bang this piece of metal out, and then you take it and you weld it, and the next guy takes it and he turns it, and so on, so on, and so forth. And now a lot of those jobs are sent overseas, right? Which leads to us, at least thus far, highly skilled jobs or relatively menial jobs, service industry jobs. And I think what we're seeing now with the internet and the technology that goes into that is the era of intellectual property, right? It's getting to the point now where pretty much everyone has a cell phone, pretty much everyone has access to the internet, and which means everyone has access to social media, and you can make money off of your ideas, more or less, whether it be through podcasting, whether it be through some web series that you put through YouTube, whether it be through paintings or poetry or CDs that you sell via, Etsy. The ability to use your own creative productivity and your ideas and send that out into the world, and with we're past 7 billion, we'll be approaching 8 billion at some point, people, most of whom have internet access. No matter what you put out there, somebody somewhere is going to be into that. And so I feel like maybe the next level, as far as evolving and how to use the technology that we have to get us away from these 8, 10, 12-hour shifts, is figuring out how to use your intellectual property, your creativity, and to create a market around that, using the internet and social media to draw like-minded individuals, whether it's blogging, vlogging, or whatever it may be. That may be part of it. But to the point I think that you're making is technology seems like, and whenever we tinker with things, we kind of have an idea of where we want it to go, and it goes in that direction, but then there's a lot of other things that come with it. So there was this children's book when I was little, where like there's a fly that's infested there's a fly infested with houses. There's a house infested with flies. So the solution that the person has is we're going to get spiders, and the spiders get rid of the flies. But now the house is infested with spiders. So we're going to fix that solution by getting mice. So that works, but then the house becomes infested by mice. Well, then we'll get cats, and this just goes on and goes. So for every solution that we come up with, there's a pair of symptoms that come along with that now needs a solution that we come up with that comes with other symptoms that has a solution. And it kind of seems to be like the more we try to tinker and fix things, the bigger mess we make almost, And I don't know if there's necessarily a solution to that. That may be, as you said, just it's a part of being. It is what we are. I want to say it was Einstein, but I can be completely wrong here. Somebody said something along the lines of the mind that puts you into the place of having the problem is not going to be the same mind that's going to be able to solve the problem, because that's the mind that got you in the problem in the first place.
You can't solve a problem on the same level of the consciousness that created it.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And that may be where we are. We simply can go so far with what we can think and solve, and then that's as far as we can go. Yeah. And all the extra little numbers and details and affecting factors, we just can't perceive it, And so we're maybe dealing with a little bit of a hubris here, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, if there's any light at the end of the tunnel, although we do, we look in nature as well. There is competition for resources. There is, certain, lions kill each other. They kill they commit, what's it called, infanticide. There's some dark shit in nature too, right?
Absolutely.
But if we follow nature, there'll be a lot more room for everyone.
Yeah.
If we follow our natural side more and just stick to our just kind of sort of simple nature, human nature, everything in nature kind of, it generally just works out.
Yeah.
Like if you really go into nature and see what the natural world, you see that there is this incredible intelligence that designed the earth, whether you call it God or you don't believe in God. Regardless, that's aside from the point. There is this incredible intelligence that made everything, and the fact that it even exists in such abundance and such dexterity and different colors and different heights and different shapes and different forms, you can see that there is this intelligence that keeps the world turning. And if we get out of the way of it, maybe instead of trying to turn the world ourselves, essentially,
right,
we might find that shit isn't as fucked up as it as we've made it out.
Yeah, it'll take care of itself, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds hopeful, but
there's nothing wrong with being hopeful. I think I may be somewhat prone, I won't say to pessimism per se, but
and there's so much pessimism in the world. I don't think we need to add to it. Like you look at the media, whatever. It's really all, Let me look at let me check my phone and look at the first 4 news articles that come up. Okay. Women killed in Philly shooting rampage. Gunman also dead. From CNN. New York Times. A Trump empire built on inside connections and $885 million in tax. So that's like some tax scam shit that Trump has done, apparently.
No question.
According to the New York Times. Washington Post, a reporter was just arrested outside a Donald Trump event. Oh wait, this is mixed. Huffington Post. New baby giraffe born at zoo that killed surplus giraffe 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that's kind of hopeful.
So, out of what? That was that 3 or 4?
That was 4. Yeah.
So 75%.
Yes.
Pessimistic. Yeah. Definitely, there's room to add a little bit more hope. Optimism.
Yeah. Because I think if you ask people in their daily lives, and look, a lot of them would say they're not happy, but like, there's a lot of cool shit going on in people's lives. There's a lot of cool shit going on in the world right now, and if this is right now we're the media. If anyone listens to this podcast, we are the media. If one person aside from us, we are the media, and I don't think we, as the media, necessarily need to. I don't think we need to consciously go any other direction apart from whatever is the truth. But I don't think we need to necessarily focus on all the.
That's a good point.
Sluggy shit that's going on.
Very true. Very true. Let's see. We are actually coming up on the hour mark, so we can go ahead and wrap that up, brother. I thoroughly appreciated this.
Absolutely,
this was awesome.
Thank you. Really enjoyed that.
We'll do it again, man.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right. Thank you for listening.
All right, man.